Hello, my name's LoriAnn Garner, and this is Ann Webb. I am so excited to be here with Ann today. I reached out to her a week or so ago and just said, Ann, I just want to see, I think there's something that we could share with people. And I had no idea that she had been experiencing some of the same things that I had been experiencing. And so this is just such a great opportunity to have you here, and thank you for being here with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's fun to see you again and to share something that we have in common.
Yeah, that we didn't even know that we had in common, right? So I met Ann many years ago as I joined a coaching program with her, and we did this coaching program, and she helped me just develop a lot of personal development with myself. And I have really admired the things that she's done in her life. So Ann, can you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and share with them a little bit so that they can understand who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm married. I have 5 kids and 7 grandkids, and I live in Camas, Utah. And I love the outdoors, world travel. Professionally, I have worked for myself since I was 23, so that was a long time ago. I started with a gourmet food business, and then that kind of led me into more coaching. So I started a company called Untitled Lifevision, which was a goal-setting program, the idea that you visualize and decide what you want your life to be about, and then you actually write it down and then record it in your own voice and listen to it with music, actually, and listen to it every day. So I did that for quite a while and certified a lot of coaches in that, and just recently at the end of 2019 decided to let that go. Not really sure why, but felt there were other things on the horizon. And one of my biggest passions is humanitarian. I've taken 25 expeditions to Africa and India. And I also just let that go recently as well. So I'm a blank slate, waiting to see what's next. So that's a little bit about me.
Wow, that's so exciting. So as I was talking to Ann, I had called her about the Ideal Life Vision actually. And then as we got talking, she told me that she had just went to Bali for a month in January. And I wanted her to share a little bit about her experience there, because I just know right now, with a lot of the uncertainty that's going on in the world, a lot of the turmoil, the things that we're feeling, there's just maybe some anxiousness, anxiety. Maybe you've lost a little bit of sleep. You're not sure what's next. All of these things going on. You're having to homeschool your kids now. You're like, there's so much that's brand new. None of us have been in this territory before. All of us are just experiencing it for the first time ever in anyone's lifetime. And so when we got talking, she said that she had spent a month in Bali breathing, learning these breathing techniques. And so I wanted her to just share a little bit of that. Can you share some of that with us?
Sure. Yeah, just a little bit of background on that. So like I mentioned, I had just let go of these 2 things that were keeping me very, very busy in life. My humanitarian nonprofit company and my professional coaching company, both the last day in December. And I was like, wow, what's next? I need to create some space. And so I actually went to Bali by myself for a month. And the last week or so, my husband and 2 of my daughters came over. But of course, I didn't know anyone, and it was just going to be about, taking care of myself, a little bit of self-care. And Bali is really
I'm sorry, who does that? Like, who goes by themselves? Who goes by themselves to Bali? Like,
right.
just, okay, I'm out of here. I've got to do it. Like, you're my idol.
I did take a little bit of flack for it. Like, really? You're traveling? I'm like, hello, I have been on 25 expeditions, traveling the world a lot. So it's just a matter of talking to myself instead of talking to other people. So, which I did do, by the way. I was like, wow, there's no one to talk to. I guess I'll just talk to myself. But I did that with Untitled Lifevision too, talk to myself. So, I was used to that. Anyway, but Bali is actually world famous for quite a number of yoga studios and yoga retreats, and they're everywhere. And so I did have a friend that had lived there for a year with her family. And so she gave me the heads up. She's like, you got to go here, you got to eat here, you got to take these classes. And so she sent me a whole list of what to do. So at least I had that in my back pocket when I arrived. And so it's called the Yoga Barn. And so when I first got there, I, signed up for classes. I bought a pass for a month and started going to a few yoga classes. And then I went to some what they called breathwork classes. And very quickly, in fact, even the first week, I'm like, you know what, I can do yoga. These yoga instructors are awesome, but I can do basic, hatha, vinyasa yoga at home. But these breathwork classes blew my mind. And some of them were meditation. And so there were days that I did 3 or 4 of them in a day. And I noticed very quickly what it was doing to me, which was elevating my mood. Again, I wasn't in my best state when I went there because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, what my purpose is anymore, but I had felt compelled to get rid of these things that were, that I had done for quite a number of years. So my mood was elevating. I had more energy. I felt fantastic, to tell you the truth. I mean, just in terms of sleeping better, more energy. I felt like that one breathwork class I felt the same as if I had jogged, for an hour and a half or whatever. In fact, I felt way better than that. So, yeah. So my favorite one, I actually am going to talk about several that I learned. Maybe I'll actually start with a couple that were a little bit out there, and then I'll come to one that all of us can do. So one of them was called Shamanic breath work. And this is actually one that you probably can't do at home. But there were 100 people in the room, and the guy really kind of told us, he said, you need a shaman to lead this because there's going to be a lot of extremely intense drum beating music. And he basically said, if you stay in this room, you stay for the whole 90 minutes. He made us all really worried, like, what's going to happen? But it turns out that the shamanic breath work was actually, if you've heard of this, which I don't know that I have until the last year or so, holotropic breath work. And so what it is you breathe in, so lots of crazy music, drumming, close your eyes, lay down, and you breathe in. So in and out as fast as you can without stopping. And there was a few minutes before we started, and someone's like, so what if, we only did it for 30 seconds and I felt a little bit lightheaded and like I was going to maybe hyperventilate and pass out. And he's like, oh yeah, that could happen. If you fall over and pass out, just sit right back up and just keep going. And so that was a little like, whoa, what are we in for? But one of the things that he said that was kind of interesting, he said, this will, for half of you, this will create an out-of-body experience. So, he said, you don't need magic mushrooms to do what we're going to be doing today. So again, a little bit out there, but that was a very powerful experience. And it was one that we only did a couple of times, but while I was in Bali, but very, very powerful. Another one, again, I'm kind of going to the fringe, the extreme right now, and then I'll kind of come back a little bit, but it was called, there were a couple of names. I just got an email from the guy today because I asked him about his recording, and he calls it the oneness meditation, or he also calls it the Chakra Meditation. And what that was almost the same type of breath, in, out, when he'd go, and he would go through and go 1, 2, and you would go. So breathing in and out of your nose, 1, 2. He called this the 700 breath meditation. So you would do 100 of those. And let me tell you, it's not easy to go in, out, in, 1, 2, 1. We would do that 100 times. And then all of a sudden he would say 1. He'd go 1. And that was when you would breathe and hold it. And then he would do a mantra, okay, kind of like an affirmation on chakra number 1, okay, the root chakra. He would say a few things the whole time you're holding your breath, because he hasn't said 2 yet. So you're inhaling, he would say, visualize your root chakra, and he would do this mantra on it. Then he would say 2, and he would hold it. And then he would say, now think about your crown chakra, the top of your head. Visualize white light coming into it. Again, you're holding your breath the whole time. He would do this mantra, and then he would say, okay, 1, 2, and then let's go again. 1, 2, 100 of those. Then he would start with, go to chakra number 2, do a visualization on that. Crown chakra, again, always ending. So he would go through all the 7 chakras, but always end on kind of the crown, go back to 3, do the crown, 4. Anyway, extremely powerful. When you walked out of that one, that one took about, I don't know, half an hour, whatever. You were feeling a little high, I'm just going to say. Not that I'm being high feels like, but that's what it. So anyway, those were 2 of the more extreme ones, but they would always say this is not just physical, although you're going to get all the physical benefits of better sleep, better immunization, better mood, more energy, all of that. But you're also going to have a spiritual and an emotional clearing, cleansing from both of those. So anyway, those were kind of some interesting ones that I did. What I got turned on the most about being in Bali, and this one I did 3 times a week for a month, and then I came back and did it, was the Kundalini Yoga. Do you know anything about that?
I don't know anything about Kundalini Yoga.
Have you heard of it though?
I've heard of Kundalini, but.
Yeah. Okay, so Kundalini is, a form of yoga. And it's turned out that it's become one of my favorite because it combines 3 elements that I think are really powerful, which is the breath work, also the meditation, and some kind of cardio. Like you can sit there and do Kundalini and start sweating. And you're like, I'm sitting here breathing and I'm actually sweating. So that's kind of interesting, but they have a lot of different types of breath work, but they're probably, I'm going to say, the most known for what they call breath of fire. So I'm going to have to push my computer back for this so that you can actually see this. But you pull your hands in, you're like this, and you put it up like that. And then it's that same breath, kind of the shamanic, which is equal parts in and out. So it's, and you can do it slow, you can do it fast, but she said that the thing that you're going to want to do is actually concentrate on making it the rhythmic in, out, in equal parts in, out. So of course, well, before you start this, you're going to want to blow your nose and all of that and do it. And holding your hands up for a while, they're going to get tired. She's really like, keep going. And Kundalini also, everything is done with your eyes closed. So if you're in the class, no one's looking at you. They always say everything. There's only an occasional thing where they're like, we're going to keep our eyes open. It's typically something where you're moving a little bit more, standing up, just so you don't bump into people, but it's always done. And so anyway, that's one of the things. So you'll do breath of fire. Sometimes you'll do another posture. Like we've done plank, plank position and breath of fire. And a lot of these things are very interesting. How just how hard it is. And then the instructor will say, I know you want to give up, but just keep going a little bit longer on this. So anyway, those were the main things that I got out of my Bali. And I never honestly believed that I would fall in love with, breath work. And I had had some previous experiences with other things. I'm like, everywhere I'm looking, I'm hearing about, breath work and things that other friends were doing. And it sounds like you had your own, when we talked, you had your own experience of some breath work.
Yeah, so I had an experience that I was looking for something because I was grieving so much over the loss of one of my friends. And I've had a lot of tragic death, grieving times in my life. And losing my parents when I was 18, and just my brother-in-law dying tragically, my niece dying tragically. Like there's been just these things in my life. And so I knew, I was very well aware of the grieving process, but I knew I just needed something different this time because this was such a different level of grieving that I was going through because he had taken his life. And so I wanted something that I could really use long term, that would just settle in my soul and my heart. So I went to Sedona, Arizona, and I had no idea what was in Sedona. I didn't know that that is like a world known place to go for healing. Like I had no idea there's vortexes, like all of these things. I had no idea. I just Googled it. I found this place. There was a healing retreat there that I could go to, and I masterfully designed this 2 days for myself. And one of the things that was just the most powerful for me was I met up with this lady, Elizabeth, and we had yoga mats. We hiked to a vortex. We sat on this vortex, and she did breath work with me.
Wow.
I thought I was going to do yoga. I thought I was there, like it was going to be this yoga. No, she did breath work. And probably one of the simplest things that she had me do was just sit there with my legs folded, my arms out, palms up, so that I would be in a receiving mode. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we are always giving, or we're closed off, or we're holding ourselves in, and we're just in like tight. And she just said, I want you to be open. I want you to put your hands out like this on top of your legs. So you guys see that yoga pose that is all over the place with people, doing this and, eyes closed. But the real part of that is that you are being open to receiving. So I sat there like that. She had me close my eyes, and then she said, this is just a simple breathing technique that I want you to do every day, just a few times every day. You can even do it before you get out of bed. She said, just make sure your palms are turned up. And it's 3-part breathing where you just breathe in, start in your belly, and you actually, when you're breathing in, your belly goes out. Some people do that wrong. She had to explain that to me. You breathe and you push your belly out, and then you expand your rib cage, and then your collarbone raises. So it's and then you let it out, your collarbone area first, your chest area, and then your belly button, and you bring your belly button into your spine as you're letting it out. So we did that one, and I probably use that more now than I ever did. And I remember a friend telling me back a long time ago when the very first crash happened in our lives, and I was so tight and holding things, and she's going, LoriAnn, breath is free, air is free. breathe. And I will never forget that because I find myself sometimes like this. So that was another reason why I just loved what Anne had said that she had been doing and learning was this, and where she turned, that's where I turned. And so we were just hoping that as we shared this with you guys, that it would help you a little bit. So I know that you have some other ones that you wanted to talk about. What were some of the other things?
Oh, yeah. On that last one that you just did, it reminds me so much of a very popular breath work that's been going around for a few years. Let me just kind of back up with how that, it's called the Wim Hof. And I'm sure some of you have heard of it and some of you haven't, but
I hadn't.
Yeah. About a year ago, so this is kind of the backstory for me, is how I got introduced to this. So about a year ago, I have these friends that always do a polar plunge in the middle of the winter. So they wear their swimming suits, they put all their warm clothes, they go hike up into the mountains, and they jump in the lake in the middle of the winter. So last year, at least in Utah, the snow was very, very bad and they could not get in. And I live in the mountains and I live on a pond, a very, very big pond. And I also have a hot tub on my back porch. So my friends called me and they're like, hey, we were wondering if we can do our polar plunge in your pond. And I said, and they didn't ask about the hot tub. And I said, yeah, and I have really great news. 10 steps up from the pond, you can jump in our hot tub after. And they're like, oh, this is the best polar plunge ever. And so anyway, all of them, and they asked me if I wanted to. I was like, no, why would I do that? So I didn't know anything about it, but these girls all jump in. They all scream their heads off and jump back out, except for one. And she was in there, very freezing water. There was ice on the pond. And she sat in there for about 3 minutes with her eyes closed and was doing breathing. And I just kind of watched her because all the other girls were in the hot tub and they were screaming and going, oh my gosh, that was so cold. And she was still in the water. So anyway, she comes up finally and I asked her about that. And she goes, oh, you have to Google Wim Hof. She goes, there's no chance that I could have done that had I not immediately gone into this breath work. So anyway, I did not Google Wim Hof because I couldn't remember. It was such a weird name. I was like, I can't remember what she said. But just in December, I went on a girls' trip and one of my friends said to me, there were 3 of us sharing a room, and she said, oh, I hope I didn't wake you guys up early this morning when I was doing my Wim Hof. And I was like, huh? What'd you say? And she said, oh, my breathing. And so anyway, it was so much like what you just did, LoriAnn. It was expand the belly. So breathe in, your belly comes out. And then Wim Hof says, okay, now pull it up into your chest. So kind of it's there, pull it here. And then he says, which is kind of hard to explain, squeeze it out your head. So, and it is super funny because he does have this free mini course which I'll give you that info in just a sec, but he makes this funny face when he's squeezing it out of his head. And so he pulls it up and then just let go. And he said, you're not forcing the air out. It's not like, Kundalini where in, push it out. It's just let go, do it again. And you do the sequence. So when I watched you do that, it reminded me so much of this Wim Hof, which was kind of interesting. He has a free course, and his little thing is very interesting because it's first on breath work, this breathing technique. The next one is on cold, taking showers, and the next one is on when you want to give up, stay committed. And the other day, this was maybe a month ago, I was like, oh, and when he does it, he has a big gong in the back. He's doing it on a yoga mat. I'm like, this guy is doing Kundalini Yoga, but he's not calling it that to draw in people who are like this to yoga, okay? So he's attracting extreme athletes. He actually, which I was very interested in, because in October, I climbed Kilimanjaro. He holds the record of climbing it in like one day in his shorts and doesn't have any effects of the lack of oxygen on the top. So he has lots of world records for extreme sports, but he uses Wim Hof method, aka Kundalini Yoga, to do it. So that's kind of interesting. So if anyone is watching this and is interested in this, it's Wim Hof, like W-I-M Hof, H-O-F. That's his name. He's a Dutchman. He's a crazy Dutchman, and he's called the Iceman because he jumps in lakes with snow on him. He does ice baths. He does extreme. He's run through Death Valley without water. He's climbed Kilimanjaro in shorts, and it's very freezing up there, trust me. So lots of extreme things, but he said it's all about the breath and being able to tolerate cold. So WimHofMethod.com is the resource for that, or just Google Wim Hof. And I did notice that he reduced his full course, which you don't need to buy, by the way. I was like, wow, he's giving it all away in the mini course. But if you want to go deeper and learn more, I think one of my friends paid like $250, but it's on sale. He said it's going to stay on sale forever because of coronavirus. He wanted people, to get this because he says, and I believe this, it strengthens your immunity. He said, if you do that in the morning, your body will become completely alkaline, your blood, everything, just by doing, 10 minutes of breath work every day.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so exciting that you were able to share all of these experiences with us. I know there's probably so many people that have questions out there, and we are not the experts. We are experiencing it ourselves right now. That's why we wanted to share this with you, because it's powerful. I love what you just said, Anne, that it is something that we can all afford. We can all do it. We can take that time. And I think sometimes we think we don't have the time. Well, right now, most of the world is in lockdown, shutdown, and it's going to open back up, right? We know that this is going to get over, and we are all going to go back into this new world, this new life, whatever it is. How cool if we could empower ourselves with this one little simple technique every single day to build our immune system. It is free. Our breathing is free. It's just knowing how to do it right and let people guide you. So I know that if you do it right and you do it in a way that you empower yourselves, you share it with other people, this will be something that will be beneficial to you. So Anne and I, we just wanted to say thank you, especially if you stayed on this long to the very end, is just thank you. And if you've got questions, please leave us some comments. We're happy to answer any questions that you have. And Anne, you said that they could have your email. Do you want to give them your
email? It's super easy. It's Anne, A-N-N, .webb, W-E-B-B, @gmail.com. So just my name, ANN.webb, 2 B's, @gmail.com. And feel free to email me if you have any questions.
Yeah, and she's the queen. She has hiked Kilimanjaro. I can't believe, like, you are my hero in every form. So
I put it in my life vision, so I had to do it,
Okay. And that's another thing. If you guys do have questions about Ideal Life Vision, I am a certified coach with Anne, and so I'm happy to help anybody with their Ideal Life Vision also. So you guys, I am excited. Thank you. And we'll have Anne come on again, because she is just such a wealth of knowledge. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for watching.
And if you guys enjoyed this, pound on the hearts and give us some hearts and some loves for Anne being here today. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.